So fitting in a girls' chat and time for girlfriends, even amongst our crazy schedules, right? Because
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You have to.
yeah,
Some,
the other week, I swear I counted, we had 12 activities in 7 days.
and that's for one kid. Like
Yeah, that's for one. And now,
okay.
granted, one of the events was we had our neighbors over, which was, we got a
Mhm.
babysitter for my son. And so that was fun, but we had planned that like a month before. And
Right.
of course, all of these other activities showed up. And I think it's everyone trying to cram it in before spring break.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I honestly had to cancel. I did cancel one event,
Uh-huh.
but I left everything else on. And yeah, it was just nuts. It looked like my calendar had blown, like exploded. I was just like, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Like March and April
So,
are really busy. And I agree with you with the spring break thing. And I just realized that people are scheduling college tours during spring break because I was like, oh, we could go. And then I went to go look and it was all like filled up.
oh man, yeah,
So, I mean, luckily she's still in 10th grade, but I'm like, okay, heads
next
up.
year.
Yeah. And I'm hoping they'll have like some summer spots open too, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Because now I'm in that we got to start looking at for colleges and all that. And then my like I'm talking to my daughter about like the summer, like 6 months out because you can't do it. Like we're 2 months out now till
right.
like May, right? And I'm telling her you can't do it last minute. She's like, I want a summer job. And then like there's like some other opportunities and looking at colleges and all this stuff. And she's like, I'm busy, I'm busy. I'm trying to catch up on work. I'm trying to catch up on work. And I'm like, this is where it starts.
Yeah,
This is where it starts, where you're burning out and like you have to focus on what's due next and you can't really plan out the future, even though that's what you need to plan out is the future, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and the burnout, and I think this is a great segue into beliefs
yeah.
that we were talking about, that we were wanting to chat about, because I feel like where your oldest daughter is, like that was still my learning phase.
Hmm.
And so some of it was over scheduling and like because I was trying to get exposed to lots of different things.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting, but I agree, like the habits and the behaviors start now,
Hmm.
with trying to expose them to so many things to find out what they actually want to narrow down into.
Yeah.
But um, but
But
yeah,
it, but
but
I
at the
think the
same
belief,
time, knowing our
right.
body as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. But I think the belief of like having to work so hard and work until you're exhausted. And it's not even that they are doing it, it's that that's what's required of them, right?
Right.
All
Yeah.
these teachers are giving them a bunch of work and saying like you should have plenty of time to do it, but not taking into account, oh, they might have extracurriculars out of school or
Hmm.
a job or family commitments,
Yeah.
right? So when you're looking at the whole pie and they talk about work-life balance, it's like you automatically think it's 50-50
Yeah.
because work and life, but work shouldn't take up 50% of your life and your time because you have family, you have extracurricular, self-care, sleep, rest, other things that you need to fit into, you know, your life basically.
Yeah.
And here you are trying to catch up. And she's like in the highest, um, like in the top of her class.
Hmm.
She's still like, I'm tired. I have a lot of work to catch up on. So her weekends are busy. She doesn't even get time off on the weekends,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, and actually we were having this conversation in the car where she was like, it's just like constant work and I'm tired and I'm not getting enough sleep. And she knows she's not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
And then when she does try to lie down, she's like, I can't go to sleep. And then she's stressed about the things that are due.
Oh,
And
no.
I'm like,
I'm like, "Sounds familiar.
yeah,
Parts
and
of
I'm
my
trying to
life."
be like, yeah, and I'm trying to be like, well, you know, you gotta like do this and that, like giving her advice on how to manage it. But
Yeah.
her work style and the way she gets things done is completely different. And
Mhm.
so like some of that advice is not translating. So even though I have experience and I know where she's coming from, you know, I may say, okay, skip this or work on this or work on something that you could get done really fast and then make time for the other ones that take longer amount of time, you know, and set aside like Saturday morning. Like she doesn't work like that. So my
Okay.
advice doesn't even translate. And it
Yeah.
really comes down to how she works and how she gets her work done, you know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I can the only thing I can do is like um kind of question the belief of, you know, don't let fear drive you.
Mhm.
Try to like pick up what you're interested in. I know this is required to get into college, but
Yeah.
like, you can do 80% and get it done, but she's 100 all in type person.
Yeah, I'm the same way,
Yeah.
except I'm more like 120% all in, which,
Right.
like, isn't even realistic.
Yeah, and I was like that too. I was so like this, especially with like things I had to get done around the house.
Yeah.
Like let me take my dishwasher. Like I would like not run my dishwasher because it was 100% full, and then it would like leak into like, okay, now the dishwasher's 100% full, but then I also have dishes in my sink, and then if I run it, the dishes are still not all done because there's still stuff in the sink.
Yeah.
I started doing like I just said, well, I'm gonna run the dishwasher every night unless it's like really 20% full. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anything more than
Yeah.
50%, I run the dishwasher and it keeps it going smooth, right?
Yep.
And I have to be like, you can't go in 100% on everything.
That's
There
the
is no
thing.
way. There's no way. It's like, and the dishes are like the least of my worries, right?
Yeah, that's just an example of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, but that's like how I used to run my house. Like everything had to be 100%. And I, couldn't like start something until something was finished. And we had to do everything perfect, or I had to do everything perfect. And then I had to like let it go. That was just my belief. That's what I was used to because everyone's 100%, put your all in. And like I had to question that because
Yeah.
some of it is hindering you from doing the work that is needed to actually move the needle on your life
Yeah. Yeah,
and
versus
upgrade
just getting
yourself.
stuff
Yeah,
done
yeah,
versus, like, things actually happening, like,
right.
doing the work to have things happen that you
Yes,
want to bring into your life.
it,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I
and
totally agree.
yeah, and it took me a while to learn that just because
Yeah.
that was my belief. And then I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I had to
Yeah.
totally question that and like shift what I was doing because that wasn't really serving my like overall goal for
Yeah.
what I had in my life at that time. It was actually hindering because all my time was going towards giving 100% of something that doesn't even move the needle in any way on improving my life,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
and do you feel like that happened more, like, in motherhood? And, like, do you think that that started to happen in your marriage, or where do you think that started to happen? Right? Because
Um,
I feel like for me, in
mhm.
when I was in my career and I wasn't, married or, in a relationship, I feel like I could give 120% to my career and my job because I
Mhm.
wasn't living in my house. So there
Yeah,
wasn't trash to take out.
right. Yeah,
There weren't dishes because I would just grab something out.
right.
And I did dry cleaning at the time, so I didn't have a lot of laundry.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
all this, like, stuff
Hmm.
didn't exist, and in that world and in that model, I could give 120% and then come home and go to sleep because I didn't have hardly anything else to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like in relationship and motherhood, there's all the stuff, the life holding activities,
Right.
the
Like the
things.
operations of your life. You know?
Yes. And because you are at home more or your family's at home more, and especially after COVID, I think even with people working, now a lot of people work from home. So now
Right.
they do have that stuff, right? Because they are eating from home, they do need to do the dishes. Whereas
Mhm.
before, when we were working, 5 days a week, sometimes me 6 days a week, I would go in on Saturdays at the
Yeah.
office.
Mhm.
There's nothing extra to do. So like that
Yeah.
whole so anyway, I'm interested in like what was your experience? When do you think it started for you?
I definitely think it was after motherhood and even after the first kid, because when we first got married, when my husband and I first got married, I didn't feel like it was anything extra because we both went to work. Even though we lived in a house, we both kind of shared in the housework. It wasn't really that messy. We went out
Mhm.
to eat a lot.
Yes.
We went
Yes.
out to eat a lot. There wasn't, we weren't in the house. We were out doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then when we had our first baby, we kind of were the similar. I started leaning towards that way because I felt like at that time my belief was, okay, this is what motherhood is. It's taking care of the baby, taking care of the house, taking care of the family, cooking and cleaning and laundry. That was my
Mhm.
responsibility. So it went shifting from having fun, going out and having fun to taking care of the family, which in at that time my belief was cooking, cleaning, and laundry, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
addition to going to work, because I was still working when I mean, I had my maternity leave, but then I went back to work. Luckily at that time, that's when I started working from home.
Right.
So I
Right.
didn't have to do the commute or anything, but I still had to balance the taking care of the baby with working. My husband went to work, and he helped when he came home, but he actually went into work.
Yeah. It's the office. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, but as a mother, I was like, okay, how can I do this? Um, I wasn't like, as soon as I had my baby, I was like, we moved to a new city. I was trying to balance it. I did not want to put my baby in daycare until she was 1.
Mhm.
So then we had um I mean, this wasn't planned, but my mom came stayed for like a month or two, and then I
Nice.
had somebody else come. But it wasn't really, what I was expecting because I didn't give up the control. I wasn't receiving of the help.
Accepting the receiving.
I was
I'm
not
actually
receiving the
doing a
help.
video on that. I have it scheduled for next week.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
I still felt like it was my responsibility to take care of now my mom, because she was older. And even though she was
Right.
raising my kid, it was just like I was still like prepping the food and doing the schedule and like making the plans, it's
Yeah.
like
So you're
trying to
still doing
run.
a lot of the work. Like,
Yeah, I was doing a lot of the work.
yeah.
Right. I was doing a lot of the prep work and the what they call the mental load.
Hmm.
And like, even though my mom was there, she was physically watching, my baby. It was just like, okay, this is when you need to feed her and change her. And and then as soon as I got off work, it was like I took over, right? Because I felt like that was my responsibility.
Yeah.
So it was like I wasn't even giving myself a break. I would like get up, get the baby all ready, do everything for the baby, get myself ready, go to work, not take a break. I wasn't even taking a lunch break. So I
Wow.
was working,
Yeah.
get off, get the baby. Like there was no breaks.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was just my belief at the time that you just run like that with no breaks, no rest, no nothing.
So if you could do it differently,
Uh-huh.
what would you do differently? Like, what are your upgraded beliefs now that you've been through? Like, if you could go back, what would you do different? And what would
I
be your different beliefs?
Okay, so I think my upgraded beliefs would be my role as a mother, not focusing on the cooking, cleaning, laundry, feeding, and all of that, the physical aspects.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be more into receiving help,
Mhm. Okay.
um, and taking more time to rest and connect with my baby and build my baby's belief system, just the way I talk, interacting, connecting. Because even though like I was taking care of my baby, it was like all physical, right? Like, yeah, I would play and stuff, but I would be
Yeah.
distracted. I was not really um connecting in those infant years.
Yeah.
And I felt like that, like I would do that differently. I would definitely do that differently. Um, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny. I think it's interesting how we don't know these
Mhm.
things. And especially, we've talked about the idea of pair bonding, right? Like when you say connecting,
Right.
and I've even shared this with some other moms. Remember right now, your baby is wanting to pair bond at a nervous system level. Like your heartbeat rate is they're going to be trying to connect with your heartbeat rate. So being mindful of, are you stressed out? Are you present?
Hmm.
Am I present? Things like that. And then even I think the temperature as well, like the temperature of their body, if they're on skin to skin,
Yeah.
that is another way that they pair bond. And
Hmm.
just this idea that they can be close to another human being and connect to another human being. So I
Hmm.
think it's hopefully we can change this,
Yeah.
as the new modern moms. And,
Yeah.
I think we've kind of seen both, right? Because I feel like, I don't know about your mom, but my memory of my mom was, she was just at home, um, and just not thinking about this stuff. Like she had help,
Hmm.
but her being present and things like that, she was always going, going, going and doing. Like I remember her always being busy.
Yeah.
Um, and it was still a good experience, but you can't remember as a baby, right? Like,
Okay, yeah.
did
Yeah.
I get that pair bonding
Mhm.
experience?
Yeah.
Did I get that presence? Did I get that calm? Because I feel like that's one thing that we miss so much. And even with husbands and fathers,
Mhm.
for them to have that awareness of what's going on in a nervous system level. And I think it ties back to the beliefs, right?
Yeah.
It all comes back to the beliefs that you've been talking about.
And I will say my husband was really, really good about that. He was so excited to have baby that he was always like playing with her, present with her, talking to her, showing her things. Like, so, I know that she got that. I don't know that, I was the one to, like, I would carry her and stuff, but I would be like carrying her and cooking and carrying her and doing stuff like, I was present, but not present,
Okay.
right?
Like you
I
were
was physically
physically present,
present and mentally thinking about other things.
mentally thinking about like, look, scanning the room and seeing what needs to be done, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's something that that's not widely talked about because I didn't
Yeah.
really know about that. And my family wasn't like that. My mom, when I was growing up, she was a nurse, so she was always at work. She would go to work, come home and sleep. Work, go to work, come home and sleep. Like we didn't even celebrate holidays on the holiday. We had to celebrate later when she had a day off, right?
Yeah.
Because you get that holiday pay.
Right. You get the extra money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's
as
so
women, we like
important.
our finances too.
Yeah, yes.
Healthy finance.
So that, that was that like and I think also the belief that you do everything by yourself because like we were an immigrant family and but like when my parents came over, they didn't know anybody and
Yeah.
they just did everything by themselves and then eventually we had family come over, but everybody was busy. It wasn't like we were close knit, like there wasn't a lot of you watch the kids and I'll go to work. It wasn't like that at all, right? So it was always I felt like they were always doing stuff by themselves and not asking for help. So that's like what I saw. And
Yeah. Well, and
and
maybe even their belief systems
right.
could
Yeah.
have fed into that. Maybe relatives were trying to help, but they're so used to doing it on their own. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I
as
don't
we're
know,
learning
but
more about this.
yeah, and I feel like they like because they left, like they're from India and they left the social family structure and they were here by themselves. It wasn't comfortable like when they first came, right? So it's a new language, new culture, new people. Like it wasn't people that they grew up with. It was kind of like just I would say a difference in culture, a
Sure.
difference in
Yeah,
culture, right? And so,
absolutely.
but seeing that, like being the first generation, it was like, okay, you do everything by yourself. And I feel like a lot of immigrant families are like this,
Yeah.
right? And it was like the drive to be successful. So obviously you're putting in the 100% or 120%, focus on education and all of that. But yeah, I mean, um, it wasn't very relaxing as a kid. That's how to say. It
Sure.
was more like focus on your education and study and not so much play and bonding, pair bonding,
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. And I feel like maybe
Yeah.
that's what's missing because prior to women going at work, they were like, maybe they hung out with other women that were not going to work. There wasn't a lot of activities. Like, you probably had church
Yes.
and then like maybe PTA or something like that. But and I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it was like back, in the day.
Yeah. Even with my mom, I mean, I don't remember other than, her church group, I
Mhm.
don't remember a lot of other stuff happening.
Yeah.
And she was still very involved in different things.
Mhm.
So my dad was a doctor, so he did actually, I found this out later and I'm like, why didn't you tell me this before? Or like, why didn't I ask? So I was talking with my dad and he was like, oh yeah, well, when you were born, because you know, I was on call. Essentially, he was building his
Mhm.
business because he had started out as a pharmacist and then it ended up going into ophthalmology. So he started his practice later in life.
Mhm.
And my mom actually helped him. She was his receptionist for a while. So
Okay.
I love that story that she helped him build. But anyway, he was like, yeah, I knew because I was going to have to be on call and I couldn't be consistent. I hired somebody to help your mom 3 days a week ahead of time. And so I knew that she was covered. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I think to ask that? And never knew that. Never
Yeah.
knew that in the baby phase. Like, I remember when we were older
Mhm.
that we had someone come and help, but I didn't remember as an infant.
Right.
And so it's interesting that some of these messages I feel like are just missed. Um,
Mhm.
in getting communicated and passed down through generations through women.
Yeah.
Um, but then also that idea and that belief that you talk about of I've got to do it all on my own.
Mhm.
I feel like I still very much had that.
Mhm.
It was also just my personality of I always felt like I was the person that helped other people and I
Yeah.
didn't need a lot of help
Yeah.
because I took care of my own stuff and like got it done.
Mhm.
But then coming into motherhood, it was the first time where it kind of slapped me in the face of
Mhm.
you don't have it all together and you need help.
Yeah.
I had never gotten to that point. It was so hard for me to ask for help.
Mhm.
Like, because I just wasn't used to asking for help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I,
so
and I
I
get
don't
it because
know.
I mean, you see, like the messaging is motherhood is easy because think about it, you don't get that much time off. You're expected to work and take care of the baby. Well, maybe not expected, but you have the choice, right?
Yes.
And it's like, I hear people going back to work after 1 or 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh, how in the world do you do that? Like, because I think before you have baby, you're like, oh, it's like I'll be the same as before.
Hmm.
You just have the baby and you're the same as before. I really thought that.
Love that one.
I really thought that.
And I think it does happen to some women.
Mhm.
Did you ever watch What to Expect When Expecting the movie?
I didn't watch the movie.
Oh
No.
my gosh. Okay, you've got to see it.
Okay.
Because it shows different moms in different
Hmm.
situations, and one mom has like the hardest pregnancy, and then this other mom has
Hmm.
the easiest pregnancy. Like the
Hmm.
ones that you hear about, but you think it's a joke, like
Yeah.
it can't be real.
Yeah.
Like, when she's in delivery, she sneezes and the baby comes out, and she hasn't even pushed once.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
I do think there's some women that it may be possible.
But it could be like her third or fourth kid, right? Because
True, true,
because it's
true.
like when I
You
had
should
my,
watch that movie though. It's
okay,
fun.
I'm gonna
It's
watch it. I'm
funny.
gonna I'm gonna watch it
Yeah.
because I remember like the first kid I was like super like strict with like what was gonna happen and how I wanted it to be, and the plan was like tight. And then second baby, I had my baby in the car because I was like, no planning, no like
I didn't know that. You had your second baby in the car?
yes, yes. I was not
Oh my
prepared at
gosh.
all.
You are
Yeah.
one tough mama.
Let me tell you, that was like it was like second baby, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Oh no. Oh no. And it
It was
backfired.
crazy. It was the craziest story. It was like
Oh
middle of the week. My second baby was born in November, so holiday season, winter time. Um, I call like my first baby, I didn't have like contractions, like I couldn't feel it. And my water broke. So I'm like, okay, let me go to the hospital. It's 5 minutes away from my house. Second baby, I was expecting the same thing. I was expecting the same thing. I started having contractions, but they were very light. And I'm like, oh, my water will break and we'll have time to go to the hospital. That's not what happened.
no. No.
No,
Oh my gosh.
it was a weekday. So my first baby was in daycare and my husband was off at work. I called him
Oh my gosh.
and then I was like, I'll call you like, cause when I called him, I first started feeling contractions. I'm like, oh, it's not like, it's not 5 minutes apart. I didn't know. That's what I
Yeah.
heard in movies.
See how we wing it? Like
Yeah, that's what I heard in the
oh
movie.
my gosh.
And then I started feeling the contractions and I'm like, call my husband. I couldn't get a hold of him.
Oh
I was like, what? And I was like calling, like panic dialing. I'm like, where are you? Pick up your phone.
no.
What? Like,
Yeah.
he comes home. It's like towards the end of the day. It's like 4 o'clock, I believe, like around 4. So, we have work traffic at that time, go like getting home
Oh my
traffic.
gosh.
And then I was like, I wasn't packed. I was still in my pajamas trying to cook dinner. And then he comes home. I don't know what I was
Trying
thinking. I
to
was
cook dinner while
crazy.
you're having contractions?
I was crazy. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
And so
mom
like, my
brain. I
husband comes
swear.
home and I'm like, we need to get the car seat and I haven't packed and I need to change. And then he's like, let's just go. And I'm like, we got to pick up my daughter, before the daycare closes. So luckily the daycare was close to our house. He's like, just leave everything. We can come back and get it, which I never realized. Like, why do people pack, like if they live close to the hospital? I mean, we lived
Yeah.
probably like 20 minutes away. It wasn't super far away, but it wasn't super close either. So I was trying to
Hmm.
get everything done. Left everything, went to get my daughter, was in very much in contraction, like I couldn't talk.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those contractions are off the hook. Like,
Yes.
I,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like he was trying to call the doctor and he's like throwing me the phone. And I'm like, what are you gonna do? I can't even think. And he went to go get my daughter. I was trying to get on the phone with the doctor. We're on the highway. There's construction.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was screaming at him. I mean, I have to say, stayed very calm, trying to get there. I'm like, drive on the shoulder. There's like yellow, orange, those barrels. Construction. I'm like, drive on the shoulder. Like, we're not gonna make it. I don't know. This is like so painful.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I had gotten an epidural my first one.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's like driving down and then he was like, what exit should I take? I mean, he knew where it was, but like since it's the second one, he didn't come to all of the appointments,
Yeah.
just the ones where you get like the ultrasound. So there was like a main hospital and like the women's center.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
So while I'm
gosh.
in the car, okay, we're like this close to the hospital, my water breaks. And so I'm like, oh my God. So then he go like I couldn't even tell him where to go. I'm like, just figure it out.
Yeah.
And so he ended up at the emergency room hospital and he was like running inside and getting the guy and he's like, "Oh no, this is not that. Like you need to just go up here." And then he gets to the women's center, pulls up in front where you go in and he went in to get somebody and they come out with a wheelchair and I'm like, "No. Like we're not like we're past that point."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I'm in the car and like it went so fast. I delivered the baby. Like my husband caught the baby, like it didn't fall on the floor or anything.
Oh my God.
She,
Yes.
she, but
Yeah.
it was like the nurses, they didn't know what to do. They were like calling, they're like, this has never happened before. And it was just chaos. It was a total chaos circus.
Oh my
I don't
gosh.
remember half of what happened. My
Yeah.
other baby, my first my first daughter's in the back screaming, crying.
Oh
She
my God.
threw up, she was scared. Because I was
Yeah.
like screaming, like I was not, it was not like you know, like having a baby is intense.
Oh yeah.
Actions are intense, and it was just like, oh my God.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I mean, I have to give kudos to my husband. He remained calm. He was probably stressed out too, but he drove. He didn't get like he didn't yell back at me. I was yelling at him,
Yeah. He's like, oh my gosh.
you know. He was, and then he delivered the baby. So hey, it's a story.
Kudos to him for staying calm.
Yeah.
And
So,
yeah.
but by the third time, we were like, we knew what to do. I'm like, okay, for my third daughter, my water broke at home. It was a weekend. It was relaxing. I'm like, okay, we have this much time. I'm gonna get ready. We're gonna get the other kids ready. We're gonna call the grandparents. We're gonna stop at Chick-fil-A because I don't get any food at the hospital.
You got it down.
By the third time, I knew what to do. But let me tell you, if it's your first baby,
Yeah.
like even if it's just you're not aware, like you have these beliefs in your brain, and people could tell you, it's just that you haven't had the experience.
That's
And
the
so
other
it doesn't
thing.
make sense to
Yeah.
you. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to you, right? That's what happened to me. People might have told me, like I had friends that had babies.
Right.
I'm like, this is what I believe. This is what I'm going to do. And it's going to work out this way.
Oh, I love it when I've had girlfriends that haven't had kids yet and they're like, "Oh, well no. This is how it'll work out for me." And I'm like,
Yeah. 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 And you want to be helpful and you tell them. And sometimes you tell them, and I'm
"Gosh."
sure I've had people tell me, but the thing is, unless you have the experience, your
Yeah.
belief is not going to change, right?
Yeah. So I think those things, but
Mm-hmm.
I do believe there are some things that I think we can give women the message on of things like pair bonding and, coming from your story, if someone's offering to come help, actually receiving the help and letting them do
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
help.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they're willing to do, dishes, cook, clean a
Yeah.
little bit, so
Yeah.
you can spend time with the baby,
Mm-hmm.
or you can get a break if maybe you need to just step away, because I do feel like there is something that's very helpful and healing if you are with the baby all the time, to
Mm-hmm.
get that physical distance just for a little bit, but then to be able to come back. Like
Yeah.
even my sister, and she caught me on this,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I had to kind of check myself, because my experience was, I had my first son with no family in town. So I didn't get those breaks at the beginning.
Yeah.
So for me, the story I told myself was, breaks are so important for a new mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to, hold the baby for them, to let them go on date night, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that did work with her first baby, but the
Right.
second baby, the second time around, I think she, you're a mom and you kind of know how to do things a little bit easier. So maybe it's a first baby versus a second baby too.
Yeah.
But I remember I went to go reach for my niece, and my sister was like, no, 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 I don't need you to hold her. If you
Mhm.
could just help with the dishes. And I
Yeah.
remember kind of being shocked, like, because at first I was like, no, 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 let me give you a break because I genuinely wanted to give her a break.
Mhm.
But recognizing moms don't always need a break. Maybe they do,
Yeah.
but sometimes they actually want to have help around the house so they can actually hold their baby and not
Yeah.
be trying to do everything one-handed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she caught me on that, and she tried to do it nicely because I was insisting almost, like, no, no, no,
Right.
let me hold her and let me give you a break. And she's like, no, like, I've got her. I was like, okay. Like, and it took me a couple of days to like
Mhm.
rethink.
Yeah, I think especially with babies because they're so adorable that people come over and they want to hold the baby and spend time with the baby, that they're thinking like I'm helping you,
Yes,
but it's like the mom needs rest and time to with the baby and they would want help like cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry, which is what they do all the time anyways.
right.
That doesn't have any emotional like ties. It's just something that needs to get done,
Yeah,
right?
it's the stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people don't want it like sometimes they don't want to go over there and do the stuff, right? Do the stuff because it's boring. They want to spend time with the baby. And I
Yeah.
think it's very important to ask the mom, like, what do you need help with? Like, how can
Bingo.
I help you? Right.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that's the kind of support I feel like moms need that they're not getting. Because we might have people come over and be like, ooh, like I want to look at the baby, I want to hold the baby. And they feel like they're a help. And they could be, but sometimes the mom's like, okay, now I don't want to plan what to feed all of you people coming over,
Right.
right? Like, and you
And I would
know,
offer to get takeout like a couple of nights and things like that for her.
mhm.
And I didn't know where I was going. So she would drive and have the baby in the back. But she would pull up to the front door and I would jump out and go get it. So she didn't have to park and take the baby out
Right.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I agree. Like learning how to say, how can I best help you right now? Like, what would be the
Right.
most helpful?
Hmm.
Because the first baby, her first, she did prefer that I hold the baby so she could just do the dishes and kind of like let
Yeah.
her arms let go, because at that point she didn't have any help. It was her first one and she
Yeah.
was overwhelmed that way. But
Yeah.
yes, but the second one caught me off guard and I had to rewire my thinking and then how I approached her with offering to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like beliefs are so like personal. Like when
Yeah,
you need to upgrade because it's like some kind of experience that you have and the experience makes you want to upgrade your belief. And if especially if it happens several times, right? It's like,
right.
okay, I need to believe something different because what I'm believing now is not helping, right? It's not upgrading me, actually
Yeah.
hindering me, right? And yeah, and definitely marriage and motherhood are definitely the two places that a lot of that happens.
Yeah, that test you, like
Yeah,
test your
definitely.
beliefs.
It definitely because it's like I mean, think about the only exposure you have is your own family and then TV, which is not is unrealistic,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen. And you just have to like, as you experience it, you have to upgrade your beliefs, you know? So,
Yeah, and I feel like for me, before marriage and motherhood, the beliefs that I did have, like when I was on my own,
yeah.
actually some of them did serve me. Like they were the right beliefs at
Mhm.
that phase in my life for that season of my life.
Mhm.
But definitely, relationship and I'll even call it relationship, right? Um, that changed for sure. So
Yeah.
so I love this. So what is a recent belief that you've gone through where you've had to really rethink, and like what was that belief? And then
Uh,
what is your new upgraded belief that
Mm.
you've come
I
across
think this
lately?
is like it's still going to be regarding kids, motherhood, because there's that time where you have the kids and they're infants and you have to do stuff for them and tell them how to do stuff and kind of walk them step by step on how to do things. And then you have to upgrade it as they grow. Like you cannot have
Mm.
the same belief because as they like my kids are now in their preteen teen era and you have to learn how to zip it and let them make their own
That
mistakes.
is wisdom right there. Like sometimes people are looking for philosophy and this grand thing. Sometimes the best wisdom is to learn how to zip it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Uh, because like you get so used
Yes.
to telling them like what to do, when to do it, how to do it, whether they're doing it right or wrong. And then you just have to move from that into guidance.
Mm.
Like, hey, this is stuff you need to do, and then just let them do it. Whether they don't do it, not do it the right way, figure out their own way of doing it. Like they need to start now getting experience, right? And they can't get experience if you're constantly telling them how to do it, when to do it, the right way to do it. And this is, believe me, years of me doing that and the kids being resentful, me being resentful. Um, we're having conversation on why they're not doing things. And, there's a lot of things that go in the background before this belief changes. And eventually it comes down to just keeping quiet, telling them what they have to do, or just leaving it and seeing what they actually do. Like, do they know what to do?
Right.
Right. You know? So now, I mean, that it really worked for me because now I don't wake up my kids for school. They get up on their own, they get dressed, they make their lunch, go to the bus on time.
Wow.
I
Okay.
don't,
Hashtag
I don't
goals.
I don't do any of, I don't like, unless they tell me they stay up late or they're like, okay, just make sure I'm awake,
Right.
right? Because I have those times where I sleep in and I'm like, I missed the alarm or whatever. So
Yeah.
giving them grace during that time. Or if I'm awake and if they ask for help, I'll help them, right? But I'm not in there telling them like, okay, you need to get dressed. Okay, you need to make your lunch. Did you do your homework? Like I'm not involved in any of that
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, I have an expectation of what grades you should be getting, get to school on time, and then and that's another thing, unloading all that mental load that you keep carrying.
Yes.
I have put that on my kids because they're old enough now that they should know when there's a day off from school, what they should be doing, what activities they should be going to, where they should be going. Sometimes they forget, they come and get me and they're like, we need to go to like piano lessons now. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. So it's not perfect,
Right. It's not
but
perfect.
yeah.
But I'm not dry. Like now it's their time to be like, this is your, like, it's starting your life. So you need to be responsible for what you need to get done or where you need to be or what, asking for help. That's one
Yeah.
thing I'm like, I tell them that. I'm like,
That's
if
a
you
big
need
one. You've already
help,
heard me talk about me struggling with that. Yeah.
yes, if you need help, ask me, let somebody know. And there's no shame in asking for help. Right. And so now we're
Yeah.
we're talking about some of the beliefs they have, especially like working and going to school and being overworked. Like that's the conversations we're having now, because in high school that's when it starts. And
Sure.
having
Yeah.
those conversations on where do you want, like, what do you want your life to look like and what do you believe? So like that, I've upgraded that in my parenting, and it took a few years to get to that point, because sometimes I think as a parent you don't realize you just want them to succeed and achieve, that you kind of like, okay, I know what you need
Yeah.
to do, let me tell you how to do it.
Oh, yeah. No, I recently caught myself and I tell Sebastian, I call it micro correcting,
Hmm.
where I fall into this pattern where I'm micro correcting like, okay, well, no, do this. No, wait, you were supposed to do the dish, you're supposed to set the table. And it's like then all of
Yeah.
a sudden I've started to notice he started, of course, this is how it happens. He started micro correcting me. Like, oh mom, I want pickles. Oh wait, not that one. Oh, I don't like that fork. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
micro correcting. So now I'm sharing with him, and we've just started for us.
Mhm.
Hey, let's drop the micro correcting for both of us. I know
Yeah.
I'm doing it, you're doing it,
Mhm.
let's kind of chill. So,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of parents who they have a hard time knowing if it's the right time to like put it in their kids' court, right?
Yeah. But it
And
yeah,
if they're capable. So I think this is interesting. But yeah, like because my son is 8,
yeah.
and where I'm still just like, he when he was 2, and you are having to micro correct because they literally don't know what they're doing, or they're about to do something dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, now it's like, okay, he's 8. I can start dropping the micro correcting, and it's getting annoying, and he's starting to do it to other people.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I think
that's turning other people off as well.
right.
So,
And I think it also like we live in a society where it's wrong to make a mistake, but
yeah.
it's like you can't learn without making mistakes, you
But
know?
don't but I feel like it's a double standard, because I feel like there is that message of, well, it's okay if you make a mistake, but then underneath, you can't make a mistake.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you say I can make a mistake, but can I really? And I feel like in school,
Mhm.
that is the right message. Now, if you're an engineer and you're in charge of, designing a highway, then
Right,
you do need to not make a mistake, because,
right.
right? So I also think there's like levels where that
Yeah,
message applies,
yeah.
but then it
But it's
does not apply in
yeah.
others.
But it's like, okay, when you start like for in your kid's instance, like in my instance, you tell them to do something and then you let them do it and make a mistake. And then it's like they can self-correct, or
Hmm.
after the thing is done, you go back and give feedback, right? Not like criticize, but like, that's a good job. And I had to learn how to do this because I didn't get this from my parents.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, and I'm still like messing up on my communication, the words I'm using,
Hmm.
right? So you give feedback and be like, okay, like, thanks for doing this. You did a good job. And then here are the few places I would like it to be done a different way or done better, or you missed something,
Yeah.
right?
Now, are you
So it's
doing
not,
that right away, or are you waiting a little bit and then saying it?
I might wait a little bit, like, um, like if they're supposed to empty the dishwasher and they like half emptied it, when I go to load the dishes, I'll be like, oh, like, hey, I'll call them down and be like, hey, I was going to load the dishes, but like, I can't because these are still here. So what happened? Like,
Okay.
maybe I'll ask them what happened. Maybe they like had to do something, or like it was too close to, they had to go to a lesson, or I don't know, like, like, and then asking what happened is, and I had to learn how to do this because
Versus like
I would be like, why
accusatory.
didn't you do it? Like my first
Yeah.
response, like, why didn't you finish this? Or why didn't you do it? But then like getting the curiosity of like, okay, what happened here? Like, why wasn't this fully emptied, and getting their story? Because
Right.
something could have been called away. Maybe like their father called them, their dad called them to do something else,
Sure.
or, whatever the case may be. So like finding out what happened, or it could be like, I couldn't reach the top cabinet, so I just left it in the dishwasher, something
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, um, finding out the why behind it, I think is crucial, because I think as parents, and I've done this plenty of times, it's not like
Yeah.
I'm like
Me
did this.
too.
It's like, it's the blame. Like it sounds like blame when you're like, why didn't you do this? What happened here? You
Right.
never do anything completely.
Yeah. Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think like though, like that's what I learned. That's what's prevalent in society. That's even what's in schools from what I hear, from the virtual school days of 2020.
Yeah.
Heard a lot of that in the classroom firsthand. And now I hear stories of that from my daughters coming home from school, of like that's how like administ teachers talk. Some teachers, I'm not gonna say all the teachers,
Yeah.
some teachers talk, and it's just like I need to upgrade my communication, the words I use and how I say it, because
Hmm.
it's not necessarily what I mean, but then they hear it. the way they hear it, it also affects what they're willing to do and what they're willing to take responsibility for, right?
Yeah, and I've noticed sometimes when I come like that to my son,
Mhm.
sometimes he walks away just feeling defeated. And then I feel like, man, I just did a like a mom miss. Like I didn't have to come it that way.
Yeah,
And then he walks away defeated. And um, yeah, I do agree that there can definitely be a better way.
yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share? This has been so fun. And I'd also love to do another video on beliefs just as a woman. I think that would be fun to do. Like, I know we talked about parenting today. And because, like we talked about, a lot of our beliefs do get challenged and need to
Mhm.
be
Is
upgraded.
there something that challenged you? Like, is there a belief that you had that got upgraded or needed to be upgraded?
So, I mean, I would say that I need to do everything myself.
Mhm.
That's definitely one. Um, and that would be, with a family for sure. Um, just starting to say to my son, you know, I know you're 100% capable and I'm confident you'll figure something out.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
just walking away. I
Mhm,
think that's been a big one. And it's kind of just letting go.
mhm.
Um, I don't ever feel like, I mean, there's the micro correcting, and I think it comes from being in that phase of infant and 2-year-old
Yeah.
and just not letting that follow me up
Mhm,
to the older ages. Um, the other belief that I would say has come up for me is making fitness a priority and like doing things that are fun, like fitting that
yeah,
in my week, even if
yeah.
it's
Mhm,
um one time a week.
mhm.
Before, I think my attitude was, well, I don't have time for this, right?
Yeah.
Or, okay, well, I'll get all my other stuff done. And then if I have time,
Mhm.
I'll go do something fun or I'll go do something that's going to fill my cup up.
Mm, mhm.
Um, Whereas now I'm prioritizing
Yeah.
as more of a non negotiable. And I feel like it's changed my energy with,
Mhm,
my son, with my husband, with my girlfriends.
mhm.
Um, and I think that's been a big belief, right? That I've had to change because and
Yeah.
we need to do another video on this because
Yeah,
messages growing up what were,
yeah.
you need to sacrifice, it's
Mhm.
all about hard work, um push push push.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I don't know, like I felt like it was even in the culture and
Mhm,
in my home, right?
mhm.
And
Yeah.
again, I think you and I have talked about this. Of some of that was required, maybe coming out of wars and things like that.
Mhm.
But now that we're in a different place, those messages are still being repeated
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're staying wired in. Um, and it just, I don't know, I'm in a different place, like energetically,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think those are the two biggest ones for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think we're taught or conditioned to put ourselves last. Like, think about it when you come from like a single life where you're like the top priority because you just do what you want to do or what you need to do. And then
Right.
get married and like the belief is you take care of the husband, the house, and then do your stuff, but it's like that's first and you like keep moving down the list. And then when you
Yes.
get the kids, you're like, okay, the kids needs come first, which is true when they're infants, but then like you're putting yourself down the list, right? And you're not filling your cup because again, beliefs or conditioning, and you just keep moving down the list until finally you're like, I'm not even on the list. I'm not even on the
Right,
list.
like when did I drop off the list? When did
I
that
know.
happen? And you kind
Yeah.
of dropped yourself off the list in
Yeah,
some
yeah,
way. And
yeah.
And I feel like, and I want to make this point because I feel like it's so important because I feel like
Mhm,
there's so many videos out there of, well, if you have a family, then you're going to be last on the list.
mhm.
I think that can happen if you're not paying attention. Like that
Yeah,
happened because I
yeah,
wasn't paying attention.
yeah.
That happened
Or yeah.
because I wasn't intentional. That
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, intentional, because I
Yeah,
was not intentional. Intentional marriage and intentional family life,
yes,
not something that was in my environment. It was
right.
like it was like survival mode. You
Yeah,
do what needs to get done.
yeah,
There was no, because it was like that, there was constantly stuff to do that was emergency, right? An
right.
emergency situation. And there was no like intentional goal planning or anything like that related to marriage or family. So I agree with you on that, on having intentionality, because I'm trying to do that now.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to
I
do that
feel like we're
now.
having conversations about this a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And like, and I feel like, letting women know, because everybody's going to want something different,
Hmm.
but there is an opportunity to have a family without putting yourself last
Hmm.
and finding models and how to do that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And find like hearing from different people's experiences because now I feel like I have upgraded my beliefs like we
yeah.
talked about, and I have more boundaries and I'm more intentional,
Hmm.
and my family life is so good. Like I feel so blessed. I'm not saying that there's not ups and downs. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs anytime you add an additional person.
Right. Yeah.
You have another opinion and then add more. But I'm hoping that we can start sharing this this message so women who are thinking about getting in a relationship and are interested in looking at different ways of doing things, right?
Hmm.
Like no, you if you get married, you don't have to be at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to run your body into the ground.
Mhm.
um and being intentional and who you select as your partner and things like that. So I'm getting more and more excited, and just that video too that I shared with you on the healthy relationships where she asks
Oh,
on TikTok,
yeah.
hey, apparently I'm caught in the algorithm of
Mhm.
negative relationships. That's all I'm hearing about. I still believe in love. If there are any women who feel like they're in a healthy relationship, even if it sounds like it's boring, like that's the stories we need to be hearing probably
Yeah.
because
And mhm.
everything else is so negative, right?
Yeah. And I feel like there's such a um taboo around living a boring life, but I think that's where you need to live to have an enjoyable life, right? A fulfilling life, a fun life,
Mm-hmm.
because everything is not so dramatic. And it's like, um, you need to hear those stories, because what I heard in the threads of those women is they prioritize themselves, and they got themselves healthy and healed and
Mm-hmm.
had the upgraded belief, and then they got the healthy relationships.
Right.
You know, you can't have a healthy relationship if you're still not healed, if you still have beliefs that is counterintuitive to a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I hate men or
Yeah,
they're no good men or, you know,
yeah,
things like
yeah.
that.
Or marriage is hard,
Yeah.
or anything
Marriage is
like that,
hard. You're going to
right?
sacrifice. You're never
Yeah.
going to get to live your life.
Or I have to do everything myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of invisible messages, beliefs that don't even like you're not aware of. Like I certainly believe in being aware of what your belief is.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like the way to get aware is every time that subject comes up, whether it's marriage, children, job, career, faith, it's these thoughts that are running in your head. So you go to like have a date and you're like, oh, not again. Like write it down. Write down
Yeah.
what you're thinking, and that's like your belief. And then you
Right.
have to like upgrade it and figure
Yes.
out what's causing that. How can I upgrade it? Maybe there's something you need to heal, right? And I mean, it's just not like a mind thing. Like I believe this now, and now I believe this, right?
Yeah.
It's like you become aware and then figure out like what you need to do to heal that belief and upgrade it, right?
Right. Yeah,
And and
100%, 100%, and I had to learn this too. I had to
yeah,
learn this too. I had to change some of my beliefs. Like nothing was going to happen or no good things were going to come into my life until I started thinking differently.
right.
And, you
And
know,
it
like,
starts with you. It starts with you. So it's not like other people. Like other people can't change. It has to be you. Like I had to change,
right,
like my outer world can change. So my beliefs had to change, my perspectives had to change, the things I were doing had to change. And I think a lot of times, just like with the kids, we focus on the physical.
right. Yes.
Some of it is emotional, spiritual, that
Energetically,
energetic beliefs.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that has to change. You have to change the way you show up in
Mm.
order to get a better life, healthy relationships, healthy friends, a lot of these things.
Oh my gosh. And I showed up like at the early part of my relationship with my husband. There were times where I showed up, like, I'm so embarrassed. Like,
Mhm.
I had not healed through some things. And I would just like randomly pop out something, like kind of in a controlling way. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. Okay, so I'll tell you this one story. So we were at the mall, and I think I just been hearing about like, you know, women where their husbands or their boyfriends were buying them things and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And like, I was not one to ask, right? And
Mhm.
again, I was not healed,
Right.
I was not where I am now. I
Mhm.
was younger. I was, 26, 27
Mhm.
when we first started dating. And uh, we were walking the mall, and I just blurted out, well, other boyfriends buy stuff for their girlfriends. And he was just like, what? And oh my God, I was like, I had to still walk around with him in the mall. Like, you can't run, there's no exit to like, like it just blurted out. But that was a wound. I did not know how to use my voice in a
Mhm.
healthy way to
Mhm.
share my desires. And it was kind of like, well, other boyfriends get their girlfriends clothes.
Mhm. Yeah, I call that the blunt, the blunt message, right?
He still remembers it. He's still like, remember the time we were at the mall and you told me that other boyfriends buy their girlfriends things? Like, oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed. But
Oh my.
like when you're younger but yeah, like, having this thing where like, yes, you can be in a relationship and have a family and still have healthy finances.
Mhm.
Yes, you can be in a marriage and have a family and still make time to, prioritize your health.
Mhm.
Yes, you can be in a relationship, and prioritize maybe the one or two things that really matter in your life, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is possible. It is possible. And they do exist and they are out there. So I'm hoping, because it was really encouraging for me also, even though now I'm in a healthy relationship, to hear all of these women talk
Yeah.
about it. And like you said, a lot of them had bad situations.
Mhm.
Then they changed, like you said, changed their beliefs, changed how they thought, they were intentional with the
Yeah.
next one,
Yeah.
and then they were able to receive a healthy partner
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
not look for that chaos and that instability and that drama,
Yeah. Yeah.
so okay, well, we could chat another hour, but I know
So
we
fun.
still have things
Yes.
to go do. But yeah, we'll do this again for sure. Love our girl chats.
Yes.
And yeah, I think there's a lot that we can talk about on this topic.
Oh, definitely. Definitely is never ending. Oh,
Awesome.
nice talking to you. I'll talk
You
to you later.
you too. Catch you in the next one. Bye.